Hello and welcome to Tools in the Shed, a podcast powered by CarsGuide, ready to rip into car stuff that has caught our eye this week. I'm James, and with me is Richard.
Hello.
And Matt.
Hello there.
Welcome. This week, we're looking at the transformation of a pair of sports and performance car legends. We'll talk about some of this week's entries into the CarsGuide garage, and we'll catch up with a guy who loves computer hacking nearly as much as he loves himself in this week's Musk Watch. So stay with us. But first of all, we've got some feedback, which is always welcome, and thank you very much for those who have taken the time. We spoke last week about utes morphing into SUVs, SUVs into utes, the way that's all becoming a bit of a grey area. And Peter Painting said, makes sense to have a dual cab ute based on a sedan rather than a truck. Better in VH, and at least they'd have four-wheel disc brakes. And it's odd for people who don't understand what a drum brake is, they need to look at the back of a dual cab ute because they still exist there. So that's an interesting point. But Richard de Kook came straight in with a comment. He's now that he's in Australia, when he sees Maloos and SSV utes on every corner, his heart doesn't stop bleeding. Agrees a Holden ute Falcon base with a bit of a lift and extra row of seats would have been perfect. And then there it was. Last week we referred to it, the Crewman.
Yeah, the Crewman was ahead of its time.
Yes, he'd never seen one, he said, but so ahead of its time. That's exactly what he said. So it is kind of what we were talking about. He also says, post-corona motoring, I'm living proof. The hell with lack of job stability, there may be no tomorrow. So I went out on Easter Monday to satisfy my essential need and get an all-wheel drive CX-5. The dealers are currently carrying on their business, and insurance gave me 15% off for 3 months for using the car less. Long live the cars, says de Kook. Which is a great battle cry.
I love de Kook, hey.
But David Burt said, in response to
Can we catch up with each other at 1.5 metres away?
I suppose so. Look,
I thought you went to his house.
Yeah, did. You were stalking it at one point, although you were in the wrong suburb. But,
I went to Dole's Point.
Yeah. You did, yes. In response to that, David Burt said, looks like 2020 is the year of disasters and resets. I look at my VF2 ute every day with mixed feelings. I love the car and respect those Australians who designed and built it, yet I despise General Motors. Just another multinational performing brand genocide. Wow, that's some pent-up kind of frustration there.
But well, he needs to get rid of that ute. I'm sure there's plenty of people who want
Plenty of people, yeah, exactly. He's onto a winner there. But he followed up with another comment, and he said that he likes Crafty's assessment of likely vehicle demand post-COVID-19. And Crafty was saying there's going to be this pent-up demand for people wanting to get out there and have a bit of fun, and lifestyle, adventure-style vehicles might be on the agenda, that people aren't going to holiday internationally so much. He was suggesting they'll rediscover the fact that they should be taking a break in their own state and very much their own country. So David said, what do you think? Is it a Prado? Is it a twin-cab ute? What about the Passat All-Track or Subaru Outback? And says, when will the Passat All-Track be returning? And I've got to say, frankly, I was only a bit cloudy on that it had gone away. M4, do you have any mail on that, on when it may be coming back?
No, haven't heard anything, to be honest.
All right.
But there is a Skoda Superb Scout launching soon, I believe. So that's essentially the Skoda version of the Outback-style high-riding wagon. And it's coming soon. So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, there's an option. Well, Paul Victor, which to me sounds like the radio alphabet. It should be Paul Victor or, Victor. Actually, it's Papa, isn't it? Victor Papa.
Yeah, Papa.
Anyway.
Papa, well, he might be a Papa. Papa might be Papa Victor.
Papa Victor.
Papa Victor.
Thinks making utes into SUVs is dumb. Right? That's his words, not mine.
Utes into SUVs.
He says just buy an SUV and use a trailer. You've got your 7 seats, and if you need to cart something around, just attach a trailer to the back. He reckons, this is his, gut feel, tradies and farmers are already complaining that utes can't carry as much as they used to, and that first gear is too high for hard work. And I've got to say, dual cab utes, the tub in the back, it is pretty modest. It's not exactly a huge load space.
No, but the only problem with towing a trailer guys, is towing a trailer.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It's a pain.
Yes.
Oh, God, yes.
I still have some nightmares about when my father and I were going across a bridge in Sydney and a little box trailer on the back of the car detached. So, okay. So no safety chain. I'm too small to understand what's going on, except all I can see is my dad looking in the rearview mirror and beads of perspiration immediately across his forehead. Anyway, happily there was nothing on the other side of the road. We retrieved the crailer. It was just a nightmare.
Oh,
that was
my
bad.
goodness.
Anyway, so we've had a new commenter, K-Rolled NZ, who says, awesome, but what about ute versus van? So, and I think that's a really interesting idea because you've got the practicalities of a 1 or 2 box van versus a ute of some description. What are you thinking, Paul?
Oh, agree, 100%. I've wanted to do a ute versus van test for a while because people don't really understand just how much more practical a van is in probably 90% of situations. It's only when maybe you go to a muddy work site where a lot of the sort of mid-size vans don't have a all-wheel drive availability or four-wheel drive availability. So there's a lot of people out there, I think, who are those aspirational buyer types who think, I need a four-wheel drive because I'm going to go off-road, I'm going to go camp. You're not. So maybe you just get a two-wheel drive van, and they have traction control systems that can modulate the torque at the front wheels to try and get you out of sticky situations. But also, there's these dual cab vans, like the crew vans that you get in from Hyundai, from Toyota, from Ford. The Ford Transit Custom Sport is one of them that's really impressive. They've got sliding doors on either side so you can get in and out of the back seat, but there's also a bulkhead so you can stop things from flying forward and that sort of stuff. And they've got, because they've got height to the size of the space, you can fit so much stuff in there. I did a load in a Transit Custom Sport when I moved house recently, and it was amazing. So I love the idea. Let's do it.
Very good.
Yeah, no, that would work as well. I mean, you guys would remember the time that I had that tree delivered to work, and it was a bit bigger. I bought it online, and I didn't. Well, it's hard to tell in a picture how big a tree is, but it arrived at work, and it was about 2.5 meters tall, 3 meters tall.
I thought I was going to say it was a massive cedar that you'd brought in from North America.
It was big. It was bigger than it was in the picture. Anyway, we had 3 cars, and we had a Toyota Corolla, a Ford Mustang, and we had a Hilux Ute. And the only car that it would fit into was the Corolla because we folded the back seats down and we were able to lie it across the front seat all the way through to the boot. But it wouldn't fit in the Hilux. That's because the tray's smaller and you can't have it upright. So, yeah.
That's right. That's right.
In terms of space and practicality, utes aren't always as practical as they may seem.
That's right. It is surprising how small the actual load bay in typical dual cab utes are. All right. Now, Wax333, our New Zealand correspondent, has said that he's thinking that Honda should bring the Ridgeline to Australia and New Zealand, and that way they may be able to keep their dealerships open. Now, I saw your eyes roll, Matt. That's because, the number of times we've thought that, are you bringing the Ridgeline here? Honda should have the Ridgeline here. Not the first person to have come up with that thought.
No. We've been asking Honda Australia for probably a decade to bring the Ridgeline to Australia. The Ridgeline, the Pilot, the Passport, they've got so many good models that would sell so well for them here that they just don't have because they're all built for that American market, the North American market. So they're the wrong-hand drive. And they won't make a business case to make them the right-hand drive. So
that's a provocative way of positioning the steering wheel in the car, I must say.
Matt, you're probably more in tune with this than me. What's the word on Tundra? Are we getting that in Australia at some point soon?
I've heard that the next generation Tundra will be built on the same platform as the next generation Tacoma and Hilux. Right. So it's going to be a modular scaled sort of platform. So you'll have Hilux and Tacoma will be the mid-size ute, and then the Tundra will be the big one. Yeah. And if they're making it as a global platform, it would make a lot of sense for it to be in right-hand drive. So
absolutely.
I would think the chances are good, but it's years away. So
just carrying the theme on a little bit further, Saab, another time commenter, says, I'm wondering when the car makers will bring to the Australian market new reincarnations of previous models, such as, wait for it, the Daihatsu Terios, Rocky, and Feroza.
Oh,
Now-
yes, the
Now-
Rocky.
Notwithstanding the fact that Daihatsu isn't, currently represented in this month,
Yeah.
it is a bit of a long bow to draw to bring that little trio back.
Yeah, I would welcome it though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Daihatsu revealed at Tokyo last year a new, I can't remember which model it was, but it's based on the same sort of thing as a small Toyota, the Toyota Rays.
Okay.
So it's basically Terios.
Yep.
And,
Okay.
if there was a time to launch a brand that just did 3 small SUVs, now's the time.
Yeah, good.
But I think the problem would be that maybe they don't have the same sort of mentality around safety equipment and that sort of stuff. And I don't know that Australians would accept a brand that didn't have safety as one of its key pillars. So
Gotcha.
as much as we'd like to see them, because they'd be money focused brands. So I'd love it. But,
it would be fun. It would be fun. I agree. Now, one of the cars in the garage last week was the Genesis G70. And we had some pictures up there to show people. David Burt came back in for another comment and said he thinks it looks like a lovely car, very English-looking interior, perhaps the modern Rover 75 minus the walnut. That said, nobody seems to be buying medium-sized sedans, so we'll likely sell in small numbers. But Peter Painting came in for another comment. The Genesis, the video screen just looks like an afterthought, same as Mazda. And that's something I'd called out in the interior design of the car. And Hammer Rocks responded to that saying, and Audi and Mercedes-Benz and BMW, they've all done it at some point in their model lineups. So just that, here's one, the BMW i3 has a little screen, it's been in market for some time, just sitting out there like it's floating in the center of the dash. I love that. But the ones that are just plonked there and do look like an afterthought rather than a considered kind of design element are a little bit annoying. You'd think there'd be a way of sort of morphing them into the dash a little more subtly.
I thought in the case of those screens would sort of pop up like billboards on the dashboard. I don't like them as well, but I thought it was a safety thing where the idea was to keep your eyes at more road level rather than looking down.
That's a good call. Yep.
That's what they tell us at the launches anyway.
Right.
The cynic in me says that for a car manufacturer to update a model, it's probably easier to have a screen that's external to the actual the dashboard. If it's integrated in the dashboard, it's harder to change. So they can't make it larger as time moves on. So they say it's a safety thing. Perhaps it is, but it could also be a lot easier to update when a new model.
Exactly. When it's that little sort of tablet thing that sits up on top of the dashboard, it's going to be heaps easier to go from an 8.8 to a 12-inch or whatever.
That's right.
I was just going to say about the Genesis screen, the thing that gets me about it is it's exactly the same as an i30 screen. So
absolutely.
I suppose that's the rare cross shop, isn't i30 to Genesis G70?
Someone's got to be doing it.
But I suppose, Richard, the cynic in you, all I'm seeing, by the way, is the cynic, it's follow the money. What's going to cost you more and what can you, get away with, which sounds a bit cheeky, but what in that context, what's still going to look good and be affordable, as it were.
Absolutely. And on that point as well, because we're in and out of thousands of different cars a year, we spot the Hyundai switchgear in a Genesis in the same way that we spot the Chrysler, the Jeep switchgear in a Maserati. It's the same window switches, the same screen, the same dials. But a consumer probably would never get the chance to cross shop a Maserati to a Jeep Grand Cherokee.
No. What was that, a Jeep Jangler?
A Jeep Wrangler. It's a new
That's
model.
An interesting model.
New model that's come out. Actually, no, a Wrangler becomes a Jangler after a couple of years.
Okay, very good. Now, we also talked about various drivetrains, and we had some suggestions around generator electric. And Thunder 250, who's a first-time commenter, said he reminds us about the Fisker, an American car company, used a similar system in the Karma. And that brought to mind a certain small Canadian pop star, Justin Bieber, who had a chrome-wrapped Fisker Karma and was invariably either this was by design or just sheer stupidity, caught for speeding, driving without a license, parking violations. He and that chrome Fisker Karma were inseparable there for a while. But I think it went through some financial problems and has re-emerged under new ownership or something like that. I'm not really up on the details. But Brahmadag said, what's wrong with an electric four-wheel drive SUV with a beefy diesel generator? They can offer loads of super high torque and he'd have an independent motor at each wheel. That's how he'd set it up. Fewer moving parts, potential to design flexible control software for the independent motors, more range and reliability than charge-only electric, hugs from environmentalists, too costly, inefficient, they'll still find lots of customers. All I can see there is dollar signs. That would be an extremely expensive vehicle.
Yeah, and you're still digging stuff up out of the earth to make both sets of components. So you know,
yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, the hugs. Well, they'll have to wait for a while for the hugs from environmentalists, but they may be gentle rather than heartfelt. You know,
distant high fives.
Distant high fives.
Can I just say, how quickly did we stop also the bumping elbows and the kicking feet?
Yeah,
like that was.
No. I think people just realise that touching isn't necessary. You just don't need it.
No,
it's okay if it's not your hand. It's okay if it's not your hand.
Richard.
No, but just shake.
Okay.
Just shake.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're moving on to general comments, and David Burt came in yet again. This is his third crack in the comments section. We touched on the Chrysler Centura. And he reminded us that the Centura was a hasty redesign of the Chrysler 180. And for people on YouTube, we'll have a picture of the 180 up with us. And the sizing was more VB Commodore. I said that it was kind of a Tirana competitor. So more VB Commodore than Tirana and Cortina. It was a smaller car, but it had a 6-cylinder engine option, as I recall. So it was Australia's AMC Pacer. You know, we need to downside cars, but let's still have a big engine in it, which was a bit odd.
I can't get past the fact that David Burt has commented 3 times, but not all in the one comment.
No,
did he write his comment, get up, make a cup of coffee, and go, another thing as well?
I think he's got multiple screens going, and the comments section on our YouTube is just always there. So if something occurs to him, he'll just drop a comment.
Yeah.
That's good. Keep doing that, David.
That's very good. Now, Druss999 says, hey, James, I, for one, don't think cup holder technology in cars has kept track with modern needs. Sure, some now fit multi-sized cups, but hey, how can I partake of my latte while cornering at high speed with 2 wheels up? Why, with gyroscopic cup holders? That's how. And why can't they be self-warming as well? Indeed, cars should have built-in coffee maker option. Is a robot barista too much to ask for?
No.
In top-tier BMW and Merc? Now, I've got to say, in top-tier BMW and Merc, you can get heated cup holders, but I don't know about the coffee maker. But Ford, I did a bit of digging here, and Ford set a patent up in 2017 for a gyroscopic kind of gimbal cup holder. It hasn't found its way, and there'll be some images of that patent on the screen for people on YouTube. And you put your cup in, and it stays upright while the car does the forward, back, side, all that. Brilliant idea. They haven't put it in a car so far, but apparently that's often the case. They'll make a patent so no one else can do it.
Now,
and kind of keep it up their sleeve.
I might be wrong, but I'm fairly sure that Fiat had a coffee maker accessory for a car at some point.
De Kook is way ahead of you. De Kook is way ahead of you. He says, forget BMW and Merc, the humble Fiat has already been offering this technology in their compact people movers, and they did fit the cup holders. Smiley face. Right. Yeah. But I don't know about you guys, but I know a colleague of ours, John Cleary, a motoring journalist who lives in Italy, has a coffee grinder in his car and a coffee maker because he can't make it for very long without an espresso. So he makes sure that he has that caffeine supply with him at all times.
On international drives where they've got a set route, you'll have 4 hours or something to get from point A to point B. It might be 250 k's. Yeah. There's a lot of deviations off the route because he knows a coffee shop somewhere in France that you've never been before. Or in
Spain. Gets the coffee. He gets the coffee, rolls up a dart, smokes that while he does the latte, and then you're happy for about the next 15 minutes. Yeah. And he starts to get a bit nervy.
One of the things that Volkswagen has is they do have an espresso cup shaped holder. in between
Yeah.
the two. So
Yeah.
that's a thought. There's actually three in the rear fold down armrests of a Passat and a Golf GTI and
Right.
things like that.
Yeah.
There's three cup holders, and one of them is a little tiny one for espresso. So they're thinking
Excellent.
about that.
There you go.
Mm.
All right. Now,
Super.
the final comment was Thunder 250 coming in again. He was a double commenter. And he says, he actually enlightened us. He says, "Hi, guys, I'm currently studying journalism at Griffith University in Queensland. He's aspiring to become a motoring journalist like Richard Berry or Matt Campbell."
Oh,
yeah.
geez.
No mention of other journalists. But, anyway, I've been obsessed with cars all my life and spend 90% outside uni watching Top Gear, the Grand Tour, and reading car reviews. Just wondering if you have any advice. It'd be much appreciated. Thank you. Now, Crafty jumped straight in and gave a response and said, "Look, you're off to a great start by the sounds of it. Watching and reading Matt's and Richard's work is a very clever move." Yeah, of course it is. That's great. You might broaden your horizons a bit, but anyway. He says, "Study hard, do your research, and write a lot. Know your subject thoroughly, and be willing to go the extra mile in terms of hard work and perseverance. Be early to every meeting and appointment, call your mum, wear sunscreen, and keep watching CarsGuide vids. Thanks for watching and commenting, mate. Good luck," which is the perfect response. That's exactly what he should do.
Yep,
I can't elaborate on that. That's probably the best
perfect
advice anybody could give. Yeah.
Call your mum, wear sunscreen. I agree. Okay, now we're gonna move on to our main subject of discussion today, which is really around the fact that the 370Z, the Nissan 370Z, is in broad terms a much loved car, but it's ancient. It's one of the oldest models on the Australian new car market anyway. And there's a lot of chat about its replacement, primarily the catalyst being Nissan trademarking a new Z logo and a new version of its corporate kind of logo, and chat about a 400Z to replace it, which to me, I've got to say, sounds exciting. And also, the GTR in the same stable has been around with updates along the way forever as well. So these two kind of halo models are looking like during 2020 or 2021, they'll come up for a renewal.
Good.
Yeah, look, I had the opportunity to speak to the head of Nissan Oceania a couple of years ago, and he made a comment that that Nissan's lineup just wasn't where it needed to be, and it was around about the time that Toyota had the 86 out for a few years, and BRZ, so the corresponding twin car, and Supra was on the books, and Nissan looked like they were really seriously lagging. And rather than try to sort of, like so many PRs do, is try and talk their way out of it, he just agreed and just said, "Look, the current lineup of Nissan is just not where it should be." But he said it's going to take probably 10 years, 7 to 10 years, a complete generation of cars to turn that around. That was about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And I think we could be seeing in the next couple of years, we could be seeing a new Z car and a GTR arrive too.
Because, when you mention the 86 and BRZ, Nissan used to have the 180SX, 200SX, as a rough equivalent. The Z car was always a Supra competitor. Toyota has taken leaps ahead in that area. Nissan is well behind in that sense.
Yeah.
Yep, they are, definitely. I think exactly what you've said, JC, that 370Z is so old. Still, like, for what it is, though, the fact that they've lowered the prices so much over the years, it's still a very engaging car to drive. It's still, it's got plenty of grunt, and there's a lot of people out there who have still got them, modified them, done them up to a certain extent, and I'm sure they're happy with their cars. But it is time, and I remember speaking to a senior product guy at Nissan a few years, probably 5 years ago as well, Richard, and he'd spoken to me about. I was saying, well, what about GTR? It was already old 5 years ago, and now it is ancient. Although. It is still ridiculously good. But the thing is that now it's gone up hundreds of thousands of dollars almost. You're looking at $300,000 for the Nismo one or something like that. So
exactly.
It's crazy money for what it is. It is an old car, and it needs to be smaller, in my opinion. It is too big, that car.
I think the thinking around the GTR was always intentionally that it should be heavy. that it'd be planted on the ground, that it would be a big beast that sort of hunkered down into corners and blasted out of them in a very beefy, macho kind of way. It was not a nimble, light-footed kind of sports car at all. It was meant to be a brute. And it certainly is that.
Doesn't the world of electrification or just full electric hand itself so nicely to that notion?
Yes, I suppose
the fact that you could have that skateboard architecture with a wheel at each edge and just that planted low center of gravity, huge amounts of torque. Geez, it's something to look forward to.
Well, that's one kind of theory. That's one path that the GTR could go down, because our word is that the GTR's 3.8 litre twin turbo V6, a version thereof, will find its way into the 400Z. You know, so that engine starts to live in the 400Z. Yeah. Then you look at a much more exotic kind of powertrain for a car like the GTR. So a hybrid electrification of it in some way would be just amazing.
I remember we were at Motor Magazine back about 2011 or 12, JC, and we were at a racetrack. And
I don't remember seeing you there.
Yeah. I just started there, and
okay.
And you wound down the window. I said, "Oh, what's it like?" And you just looked at me out of the window of the Nissan GTR, and you just said one word. You went brutal, right? And I drove it. I drove it after you, and it is such a brutal car. But it's also one of the first cars that I could get in and in the traffic see a space and just think about it and then be there before I'd even just made up my mind. It was just like that.
It's really fast, yeah.
It's very fast. But look at a new Z car, a new GTR would be great, but there's a gap. There still leaves a gap below that. Because what's a 370Z cost at the moment? Like you're pushing what 70 something.
But a few of them still go out the door each month. You know, there are people that actually are still buying that car.
Yeah. What I mean is there needs to be a proper Toyota 86 competitor, something light, something that costs $30,000, $30,000 to $40,000.
Well, remember they had
2-liter engine.
If we can, IDX concept, the retro concept that was just such an eye-catching, beautiful piece of design, and it just, I hate to say it, but another Nissan thing that just didn't eventuate.
Look, if we can bring the Daihatsu Terios back, we can totally bring the Nissan 180SX back, right?
Yeah,
it's got to happen.
I've got to ask. I mean, has Nissan's progress been stunted by what Carlos Ghosn did?
Could be.
Because is this the reason why we don't have a new generation GTR now, a 400Z now, an 86 competitor now? Was he tanking, Nissan's lineup for his own benefit or the benefit of another car company that it was joined with?
It's a great thought,
that's
Richard.
I think
that I know where you're going, and where you're going. Anyway, that absolutely fits the picture. That they're so far behind the 8 ball on product.
I think in America they've had a much more focused lineup and a much more refreshed lineup. Obviously, they've got the Centura over there, their small sedan. They've got the Maxima or whatever it's called over there. So they've got a sedan focus in America. Australia just doesn't want that. So Australia's been left behind. I mean, we're getting a new X-Trail very soon. There'll be a new Qashqai very soon. And, I mean, we can't wait for those because the signs look good. And then, it's just a matter of...
As we all know, there's nothing like a couple of new sports cars to put some pizzazz into your brand. If it's sort of moribund and just kind of there or thereabouts, bang, come in with a new Z car, come in with a new GTR, and all of a sudden there's some interest around the Nissan brand.
Yeah, that's right. Toyota doesn't need a Supra. It'll probably sell more Corollas by having one of those.
Exactly. All right. Well, look, I think all we can say is to our listeners and viewers to stay with us, and we will keep you posted on developments on both those cars. But it's exciting, the prospect of a new new Z and new GTR. Now, we'll move to our garage and cars that actually do exist and ones that we've been driving. And Richard, I'll kick it off with you. You've been in a performance car, very much a performance car, but it's a fairly small one.
Yeah, it's an A class, but it's not just any A class. It's the new Mercedes-AMG A45S 4MATIC Plus. and it's a weapon, but it's nowhere near as loud and brutal as the first generation of that car. When that first generation came out, I remember driving it and being terrified. Do you know what I mean? and excited and sweating all at the same time.
Right.
7 or so years have passed, and the new generation one's come out. It doesn't look as leery, although you can make it look leery by fitting the aero pack to it or buying the edition one, which adds decals and stuff like that. But it's all about the engine. It's the most powerful 4-cylinder engine ever to go into a mass-produced car. It's a 2-litre turbo 4, and it makes 310 kilowatts and 500 newton meters. Absolutely unbelievable. 0 to 100 in 3.9 seconds. I can just sit in the back of it. My knees are pushing up against the back seat. It's big enough to fit the CarsGuide luggage, the big case in the back. And to drive it is just, well, there are some cars that make you feel like a better driver than you really are. And I don't want to admit
I think that's just about every car I drive. Anyway.
But, well, you know what? The A45S really does fill in the gaps. It's so good. It's got a drift mode where it can send it's an all-wheel drive. So Formatic means all-wheel drive, but Formatic Plus, the plus on the end of Formatic, indicates that it's a bit more high level than a regular all-wheel drive system from Mercedes-Benz. It can send all the drive to just one wheel if necessary. And the only reason why you might need that is if you're drifting on a racetrack, of course. So there's a drift mode for the A45S. There's a launch control, which is unbelievable. It's perfect launches every single time. I only had 3 days with it, but the review's up now. It's just launched in Australia. It'll probably be one of my favourite cars of 2020. I love that car. Brilliant.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. That sounds amazing. Now, speaking of amazing, M4, going to you.
Yep.
We were just talking about the void in Nissan's lineup, but it's completely full in Toyota's side of the ledger.
Yeah, so I was driving the Supra, which is the GTS version of the Supra, so the top spec, which I hadn't really thought about it until now, but disappointingly only has 250 kilowatts compared to your family hatchback, Richard, with 310. That's ridiculous.
That is mad.
It's got 250 kilowatts, 500 newton meters, and the whole premise of my review is earlier on this month we heard that there's an update coming for Supra, which is going to see a power bump. So already they're looking at adding more power, so up to 285 kilowatts, which is what the BMW Z4 M40i has as a standard already. And so my whole pitch for the review was, do you wait for the new generation or the facelifted, updated, whatever you want to call it, with a little bit more power? And plus it also has some chassis tweaks, probably something else as well to go inside the cabin or on the outside that might differentiate it. And yeah, I wanted to find out whether you should buy one now or wait until this update.
Matt, that absolutely fits, because talking to Tata-san, the engineer in charge of the whole Supra program, he was drawing a comparison with 911. He wanted the car to be launched, and then you have iterations of it as time went by that improved the suspension, more power, blah, blah, blah. So this first update is absolutely on track.
Yeah. And there's going to be another one as well, apparently, the GR-MN, the Masters of Nürburgring.
All that.
So, the power,
Can I ask you guys, because I'm currently in the base spec Supra, I'm looking at out the window right now. Do the Mercedes bits and pieces, do the BMW bits and pieces annoy you like they annoy me?
Yeah.
No.
Not you?
Not at all.
No. I was pretty harsh on it, actually. I just don't think that. There's an argument, right, that you're getting BMW quality for Toyota price. It's the GTS is still $100,000. Come on, I mean, if I wasn't getting good quality, I'd be really annoyed. But I don't like some of the ways that the BMW stuff has been implanted. I guess it's just so BMW that I don't get a feel for any sort of Toyota-ness apart from the dash top, which is, as I said in my review, it's similar to what you get in a Hilux, the top of the dashboard. It's not fancy.
Mate, it's all psychological because I felt quite at home in a Toyota driving that Supra. It's like, yep, this is a Toyota.
Really?
I'm just so easily fooled.
Because I walk towards it. In about 10 minutes, I'll take it out for a bit. I'll walk towards it, and in my head it'll be Toyota, and then I'll sit in it, close the door, and there's a second where I'm like, what happened to the Toyota? Because there's a BMW shifter, BMW instrument cluster, BMW media screen, BMW center console. It's just all.
And then you realise it was actually a Z4 that you got into.
It was. It was the neighbour's car. He was standing like this.
We better move on. I'll just finally chip in with the car I've been driving this week, which is the Jaguar FPace. So that's the Jaguar SUV of a slightly larger variety. This is the R Sport 25T. So it's a 4-cylinder petrol turbo. It's about $80,000 Australian. Now, it's nowhere near the power outputs of the cars you've been in. It's about 185 kilowatts. But it's got 365 newton meters, and it'll start off at 1,200 RPM. So it's got that nice turbo torque, very low in the RPM range. It's all-wheel drive, 8-speed auto. And I just couldn't help thinking it's up against a tough market. You know, you've got SUVs with a slight performance bent from Audi and BMW and Lexus for that matter. Merc, of course. So it's in a hot part of the market if you're spending around $80,000. I found it a very easy car to drive. It's got all the things you'd expect, the leather. It's a 5-seater only. It sits on big 19s with Goodyear Eagle F1 rubber on it. You know, it's shod with all this go fast gear, but the steering I found there wasn't as much feel as you'd like if you're trying to get involved with the car. The rotary controller in the dash actually shows its age because more recent JLR product has moved away to a more conventional gear lever. So it is getting on a bit. Things like, you know, xenon headlights. You're going, oh, really? You know, in a car in this market. But it does have CarPlay and a few other things. I don't know. It would be a difficult one to recommend against some of its hard-edged German competition particularly. But it was a very nice experience, no doubt about it.
Nice.
All right.
I've got to say, I did like the SVR when I drove it.
That thing is mental. That's really
brutal version of the FPace. Yeah. Loved it.
Now, speaking of brutal, it's time for MuskWatch. Now, we kick it off with a story courtesy of Teslarati, and Elon Musk invites students to hack SpaceX and Tesla ahead of his hack club, AMA. Now, nerds will know that AMA stands for Ask Me Anything. And so he'll just be there to answer questions, and he'll join this hack club tonight, our time.
I thought you said hat club.
Yeah, they're doing hats as well. They're doing hats as at the same time as they hack. So I did some digging. The Hack Club is a group dedicated to helping high school students learn coding through tinkering and building projects. So Elon, the dear leader, will be in his element. So he said on Twitter, in advance of this, please try to hack StarLink and Tesla mothership. So he has a bit of a track record here. Wow. In February, he announced that there was going to be an AI party hackathon at his house. But coronavirus put an end to that, sadly. But a month earlier in January, and I wasn't aware of this, he'd launched the Pwn to Own contest, that would award a Model 3 and 500 grand to anyone who could break their way into a vehicle system. So a pair of hackers eventually exploited a loose end and wound up leaving with a Model 3. So I hadn't heard that had happened. So he tends to put his money where his mouth is. But Julie P. Paradox responded by saying, please answer concerns. Starlink will pollute the night sky. Thank you. Hashtag stop Starlink. which is a perfect segue to our next bit. Sorry, Richard, go ahead.
I am a little bit concerned by the array of thousands of satellites which are in orbit.
Exactly.
As bit of an amateur astronomer myself, but
really?
also asking people to try and hack into a network of thousands of satellites over the Earth. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's,
if they succeed. Yeah.
That's literally the definition of asking for it, isn't it? Like,
Well, one of the memes I saw was the Death Star blowing up Alderaan. You know, it's just like you've got your array ready to go. But so that leads neatly to our next bit, which is TechCrunch has reported that it's launch day for yet another batch of Starlink satellites, which will bring the total launched by SpaceX to 422. There are 422 little satellites up there. So we're inching closer to selling space broadband, you know, that it'll be up there. So Musk has provided some more detail about some of the latest measures that the company has taken to stop them wrecking observable astronomy and basically stuffing up the night sky. So the main one is that they're going to put these black foam covers, like solar panels, from launch 9. We've just had launch 6. So there's going to be another couple of launches with pretty bright satellites going up there. So it's like a foam cover. It stops, they're called sunshades, and it will be extremely radio transparent, but it will minimize the light reflection on these things. So bear in mind, the aim is to have 12,000 of them by 2027. So some are saying that, look, they're just in their initial orbit. Once they're parked in their eventual orbit, they won't be as visible, blah, blah, blah. I've got to say 12,000 little satellites, that's a lot.
Especially, I mean, we've all seen Interstellar, and, you know, a small fragment flying through space can tear through, you know, a space station or a space.
Well, I mean, you know, you've been up in space, Richard. You know exactly what that's like.
Well, look at I don't like to blow my own, you know, horn or something. But
it was a Russian episode. It was your Russian face.
When I was up in the Soyuz capsule.
He's very tall. He's in the atmosphere all the time.
Anyway.
Very tall. That's what I found when I was up there anyway.
On Twitter, Elon had said there are now 420 operational Starlink satellites, which is apparently, unbeknownst to me, it must be an American thing. That's a coy reference to marijuana consumption, 420. It's like 4:20 in the afternoon, or let's do a 4:20 or whatever. But it also could be a reference to his taking the company private at $420 or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
But Remy Bergsma says, "Oh my God, my eyes! No more astronomy for us, I guess." And Grouchy New Yorker says, "Yeah, thousands more to come." So some people aren't necessarily thrilled about that.
JC, can't he just make them fly so they only fly in daytime?
Oh, man.
Anything's possible. In the world of Musk, anything is possible. And in looking at these things, I found just a great random meme that he posted up under the name Best Political Platform Ever. And it must have been from the recent British elections, because it said, Rick Astley for Prime Minister. He will never give you up, let you down, run around, desert you, make you cry, say goodbye, tell a lie, or hurt you. And then, in response to that, Sky's 111 had one of those telegraph pole posters, you know, with the tear-off bits at the bottom. Yeah. And it was, "Hello, is it me you're looking for?" It's a picture of Lionel Richie. And the tear-off bits are, "I can see it in your eyes, I can see it in your smile." It's just fantastic. Anyway, which leads to the share price for Tesla. Ooh. So last week it was $745. This week's at $705. So it's dropped 40 odd bucks. And CCN reports, who wants an electric car when oil prices are dirt cheap? So a Wall Street analyst, Gordon Johnson, who works for, wait for it, GLJ Research. It could be Gordon something Johnson Research. I think it's one person in a fax machine, you know, sitting in an office somewhere.
Yeah,
he thinks these challenges will send the company's share stock price to $70. That's his prediction.
No,
he blames Tesla's recent rally on, his words, not mine, ignorant Chinese retail investors instead of focusing on the surface rather than attractive fundamentals. So, wow, there you go. Mm-hmm. But we'll see where that goes. But with that, I think we have reached the finish line. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
And thank you, Matt.
Thanks, guys.
And thanks to our Chancellor of Sound Design and Global Solutions Director, Mr. Pritchard, for his otherworldly technical skills. Today, he's in a T-shirt saying, "My wife says I only have two faults. I don't listen and something else." A spacesuit, which is not what you think it is. It's actually a business suit with galaxy images all over it,
Yes.
and pug slippers. I actually feel queasy. We were, interacting with him before the show. It makes me feel quite unwell. But please pass on the word about the podcast and let us know your thoughts by searching for Cars Guide on Facebook and Instagram using the hashtag CGPodcast, or email us at comments@carsguide.com.au. If you're an iTunes listener, please rate and review us. And remember, you can watch us on YouTube. But before we go, the font Comic Sans fills up at the servo and goes into pay. The panel operator immediately shouts, "Oi, get out. We don't want your type in here."
I've always been a Helvetica fan.
Typeface tyrant, Richard Berry.
That's right.